Gaza conflict. More than 41,000 civilians killed and more than 92,000 injured in the ongoing conflict between Israel and Palestinian factions. Ukraine. Fighting continues in Ukraine, and the Ukrainian Jewish community mourns the death of the son of Kiev's chief rabbi who was killed in Donbass. Monkeypox epidemic in Africa. Who has approved the first vaccine against monkeypox? The decision is aimed at combating the ongoing epidemic in Africa, where more than 20,000 cases have been reported. Flooding in Nigeria. A dam break in Nigeria has caused widespread flooding, leaving hundreds of thousands of people homeless. International organizations are providing humanitarian aid. Political situation in the U.S. Kamala Harris is gaining ground in the election race against Donald Trump, but remains far behind in the polls in key territories. As of September 13, 2024, the Gaza conflict remains one of the most destructive and longest-running armed confrontations in the Middle East. The conflict began in October 2023 with a massive attack on Israel by Hamas militants that killed more than 1,200 people. In response, Israel launched massive military action, including airstrikes and ground operations in the Gaza Strip. Casualties. More than 41,000 people, most of them civilians, were killed during the 11 months of conflict. In addition, over 92,000 people have been injured, many of whom have been left disabled. The humanitarian situation in Gaza is critical. Destruction of infrastructure. Constant shelling and bombing has destroyed most residential areas, hospitals, and schools. The United Nations, UN, and other international humanitarian agencies are attempting to provide aid to those affected, but access to affected areas is limited due to the ongoing fighting. International response. Despite the rising death toll, the international community has been unable to make significant progress toward a ceasefire. Negotiations mediated by the UN, Egypt, and other Middle Eastern countries have been interrupted periodically due to escalations on the front. Evacuations and refugees. Thousands of families have been forced to leave their homes and seek refuge in other parts of Gaza or beyond. The UN says the number of displaced people in Gaza is in the hundreds of thousands. Israel's position. Israel continues its military actions, stating the need to destroy the Hamas military infrastructure. However, international observers point to the excessive scale of destruction and the number of civilian casualties. The conflict in Gaza is thus a protracted humanitarian crisis, with uncertain prospects for resolution, despite international efforts to resolve it. On September 13, 2024, the Ukrainian Jewish community mourned Anton Samborsky, also known as Netanyahu, the adopted son of Kiev's chief Rabbi Moshe Reuven Azman. Anton died on the front lines defending Ukraine in its ongoing conflict with Russia. He went missing in July 2024, and his death was later confirmed. Samborsky was drafted into the army in May, just a week after his daughter was born. A memorial service was held on September 12th at Kiev's Central Synagogue, after which he was buried in the city's Jewish cemetery. This tragic event symbolized the sacrifice of representatives of different ethnic and religious groups fighting for Ukraine's freedom and independence in its conflict with Russia. Community representatives and diplomatic officials noted the significance of this feat for all those defending their country. As of September 13th, the monkeypox epidemic in Africa remains a serious problem, especially in the central and western regions of the continent. According to the World Health Organization, WHO, more than 20,000 cases have been reported since the beginning of the year. Major outbreaks have occurred in Nigeria, the Democratic Republic of Congo, and some other countries in the region. Key aspects of the epidemic approval of the first vaccine. The WHO approved the first vaccine against monkeypox in September 2024. This was an important step in the fight against the epidemic, as the vaccine is planned to be distributed in affected regions to reduce the number of new cases and protect vulnerable populations. Measures to contain the epidemic. Governments of affected countries, together with WHO and other international organizations, are undertaking intensive vaccination, education, and prevention campaigns. The aim is not only to vaccinate the population, but also to raise awareness of modes of transmission and precautions. Transmission and symptoms. Monkeypox is transmitted through close contact with infected humans or animals. Symptoms include fever, rash, and enlarged lymph nodes. In more severe cases, the disease can lead to complications, especially in immunocompromised people. Humanitarian aid. Organizations such as the UN and the Red Cross continue to provide medical and humanitarian aid, including medical supplies and equipment for hospitals that are overwhelmed by the epidemic. Despite the efforts of the international community, the epidemic continues to spread, and the focus is on accelerating vaccine supply and access to treatment in affected regions. Nigeria is facing widespread flooding in the northeastern part of the country, caused by the breach of a major dam. This has had devastating consequences for the region. Thousands of people have died, and hundreds of thousands have been left homeless. According to the UN, some 200,000 people have been displaced from their homes to escape the water. Many of them require urgent humanitarian assistance. The flooding has destroyed roads, bridges, and power stations, making it difficult to deliver aid and evacuate people. Water has also inundated farmland, raising fears of future food shortages. International organizations such as the UN and the Red Cross have sent aid in the form of food, medical supplies, and temporary shelters. However, access to some areas is difficult due to destroyed infrastructure. Nigerian authorities have declared a state of emergency in the affected regions and called for international support to deal with the disaster. Work is also underway to strengthen other dams to prevent further damage. The tragedy was one of the worst natural disasters in the country's history, and its effects will be felt for a long time to come. Former U.S. President Donald Trump has said he will not take part in another election debate with his rival Democratic Party candidate Kamala Harris. Trump held the first debate in June against Joe Biden, which was a failure for the incumbent U.S. president. Trump's second campaign debate against Kamala Harris was held this week in Philadelphia. Many political pundits said Harris performed better, although Trump believes he won. Trump's version, when a boxer loses a fight, the first words he utters are, "I want a rematch." The polls clearly show that I won the debate against radical left-wing Democratic candidate Kamala Harris Tuesday night, and she immediately called for another debate, Trump wrote on his Truth Social network. The Republican nominee said all of the problems created by Kamala and Joe Biden were discussed in great detail during his first debate with Biden in June and then during his second debate with Harris, so there will be no third debate.